You didn't scream when they took you. You didn't cry when your neighbour pointed. You didn't beg when your husband nodded in agreement, but you opened your mouth once. You said a name that wasn't supposed to be said, and that was enough. They said you were a scold. Too loud, too opinionated, too difficult. No blood, no bruises, no sin to be seen. Just words. But in this village, words are worse than wounds when they come from a woman's mouth. You're dragged to the centre of the square. It's market day. That's not a coincidence. They want everyone to see. The blacksmith brings the bridle, a rusted iron cage with a flat metal tongue. It shakes in his hands, more like a trap than a punishment, because that's what it is. A trap for the mouth, a muzzle for the mind. They force it over your head. It scrapes your scalp, presses into your cheeks, and clamps around the back of your skull. Then the tongue, thick, sharp, slightly curved, is shoved into your mouth. It lies heavy against your tongue. You gag. They don't stop. You're no longer able to speak. But it isn't just about silence. It's about humiliation. The iron bites your lips. Your jaw locks. Saliva gathers and spills. You try to breathe through your nose. You try not to choke. You try not to cry. That would make them feel like they've won. Around you, the crowd does not shout. They laugh, quietly, uncomfortably. Your own sister turns her face away. Your mother doesn't come outside. She knows too well the shape of this punishment. She wore it once too. In medieval Europe, the scold's bridle was used for women accused of gossip, nagging, or simply disturbing the peace. Not witches, not thieves, not murderers, just wives, daughters, widows, women who refused to keep quiet. The bridle wasn't meant to kill, it was meant to teach. You're paraded through the streets, children follow behind, mocking your limp walk. The priest does not intervene. He offers no blessing, no protection, only a glance and then a turn of the head. The iron begins to rust from your breath. Your tongue aches. You want to bite down, but you can't. You want to spit, but there's no way out. Time slows. Pain becomes pressure. Then pressure becomes numbness. Your thoughts are loud in your skull, louder than they've ever been. But none of them can escape your mouth. They sit there, trapped, caged, coiling inside like snakes looking for a hole in the wall. No one is punished like this but women. Men duel. Men are fined. Men fight. But women are corrected. And the correction is always quieter than the crime. When they finally remove the bridle, after hours, or maybe a full day, your mouth does not open. Your jaw aches. Your gums are raw. Your lips bleed when they move. But you don't speak. That was the lesson. And everyone around you, your neighbours, your family, even the other women, nod silently. Because they know the rule. A woman who speaks risks the iron. A woman who cries out risks the strap. A woman who names a man too loudly disappears. And what's left behind is not a body. It's a warning. A mouth-shaped gap in the air. They say you're a thief. Not because anything is missing. Not because anyone saw you take anything. But because your husband is gone, your skirt is torn, and your child is crying without shoes. And in this town, if a woman is poor and alone, she must have done something wrong. You're brought to the centre square at midday. They pick this time on purpose. The sun is high, the shadows are short, there's nowhere to hide. The pillory stands waiting. It is not tall, like a gallows, not deep, like a grave. It is low to the ground, just enough to trap your neck and wrists in front of the butcher's stall. This is not justice, it's display. 2 men from the town council secure the wooden boards around your throat and hands. They lock the iron rings. The boards are warped, splintered from years of sweat and rain. You feel the wood press into your skin, tight, not to crush, but to hold. Because in this punishment, your stillness is the performance. You are now an exhibit, a warning, a lesson carved from breath and shame. A small sign is hung around your neck. Lewd woman. Public mischief. The words don't matter. They're just letters burned into wood. They change from village to village, but the sentence is always the same. Be seen. Be broken. Be remembered. Children point. Teenagers spit. A market woman throws a half-rotten apple at your legs. A drunk man walks by and mutters something foul under his breath, but loud enough for others to hear. Everyone plays their part. You were never dangerous. You were just alone. Or maybe you loved the wrong person, or spoke too loudly, or walked too confidently past a man who didn't like being ignored. In medieval Europe, women were put in the pillory for reasons that rarely involved actual crime. You didn't need to steal a coin. You only needed to offend someone, to challenge a rule, to exist without permission. Men in pillories were shamed for what they did. Women were shamed for what they were. The pillory was a box of slow violence. You couldn't sit, couldn't lie down, couldn't cover yourself from the weather or the stairs. The wooden holes scraped your skin with every twitch. After an hour, your knees buckle. After 2, your hands swell. After 4, you lose feeling in your fingers. But they don't let you out. Not until the crowd says so. Because the punishment wasn't meant to be measured in time. It was measured in humiliation. Your hair comes loose. Your dress rides up in the back. You can't fix it. You can feel the fabric clinging to your thighs, and you can feel the eyes clinging even tighter. A priest walks by. He does not intervene. He lifts his hand, but only to cross himself, and keeps walking. By sundown, your legs have gone numb. Your back spasms. You've wet yourself once. You've been called 6 different names you didn't recognize. But worst of all, you stopped looking people in the eye. Because even if you didn't do what they said, you're starting to believe the punishment anyway. That's the poison. The pillory doesn't just hold your body, it buries your reputation alive. When they finally release you, there is no trial, no apology, no one wipes the sweat from your brow, no one says you can go home now, you just walk away. And the space you occupied, wood stained with your skin, is still warm for the next woman. Because there's always another. The stool creaks before you even sit on it. It's older than the bridge it hangs from, older than the jail cell where they found you, older even than the story that got you here. They say you argued too often, that your husband feared your mouth more than God, that your neighbour heard you speaking to the moon. And so they bring the chair, a wooden frame bound by iron joints, fixed to the end of a long lever that stretches over the river. It is called the ducking stool. But you're not being punished for theft or poison or heresy. You're being punished for talking too much. They tie your arms to the frame, not tightly, just enough to make you helpless. Your legs are strapped to the bench. The wood digs into your back. The rope burns your wrists. Your breath fogs in the morning air. The crowd gathers. Some bring bread. Some bring stones. Most just watch. A clerk steps forward and reads the charge. A scold. A brawler. A disturber of peace. That's all. No evidence, no witness. Just noise. Just tension. Just the discomfort your presence causes. And now, silence will be forced on you. The chair begins to rise, lifted slowly over the water, like a ship preparing to sail. Your skirts hang limp, your toes go cold. Then, without warning, it drops. You plunge into the river like a stone. The shock is instant. Your chest tightens. Your lungs scream. Your limbs fight the ropes, but they hold firm. Water fills your ears, your eyes, your nose. The current tugs at your ankles like fingers trying to pull you down for good. You're submerged for 5 seconds, then 10, then 20. Just before your vision flickers, they lift you back up. You gasp, you spit, you cough hard enough to tear something in your throat. The crowd cheers, not because they hate you, not really, because they needed a show, and they got one. In medieval towns, the ducking stool was used for women accused of being troublesome. It wasn't just punishment, it was performance, a ritual cleansing, drowning, but not quite. The first dunk was humiliation. The second was domination. The third was a test. Because if you float, you're a witch. If you sink, you are innocent. Either way, you lose. They dunk you again and again. The cold eats through your clothes, your hands turn blue, your lips go pale, your body convulses, the rope burns deeper into your skin with every drop. No one counts the dunkings, no one watches the clock, only your screams matter, or the lack of them. And if your voice disappears into the water, if you vanish beneath the surface without a sound, they say justice has been done, but they never say for whom. The worst part isn't the pain, it's the silence between drops, the stillness where you stand with your back bare in the morning light. You can feel the wind against your spine, but it's not the wind you fear. It's the silence, the kind that gathers when a sentence has already been spoken, when there's no chance to argue, when guilt has already been carved into you, just not visibly, yet. You're not a thief, you're not a murderer, you're not even dangerous, but they say you broke your vows, and in this world, a woman's promise is worth more than her skin. The branding iron rests in a bed of coals. It glows slowly, quietly, without drama, a red that deepens to orange. The blacksmith turns it gently with tongs. It isn't just metal, it's a letter, a symbol, a stain that will never wash out. The crowd doesn't cheer this time. Branding is too intimate, too permanent, too final. A man reads your sentence aloud for adultery, for harlotry, for inviting sin into the house of her husband. You don't remember the invitation. Maybe it was a glance, a whisper, a moment when you laughed too freely in the market. Or maybe your husband lied, or just got bored. It doesn't matter now. They press the iron to your flesh. The sound is quick, a hiss, like a candle snuffed too fast. But the pain blooms slowly. It moves up your back like roots cracking through stone. You don't scream, not because you're brave, but because your breath is gone, stolen, stuck somewhere between your throat and your heart. They hold it for 3 seconds, then 4, just long enough. When they pull it away, your skin clings to the metal like wax. You collapse to your knees, but the ropes keep you upright. The smell, burnt skin, ash, something darker, stays in the air. They've carved the letter A into your back, or maybe it's an F or W. The letter changes from village to village, but the meaning never does. You belong to shame now, not just in this moment, but forever. Because branding is not meant to hurt, it's meant to last. For women accused of sex outside marriage, branding was justice, not for healing, not for truth, for obedience, for fear. But sometimes, iron wasn't enough. Sometimes they used the whip. You've seen it before. A cat o' nine tails made from braided leather, its tips tied with bone or lead. You've seen it crack the air like lightning. You've seen it open backs like fruit. And now it's for you. They tie you to a post. You hear the whistle before you feel the first strike. It doesn't cut right away, it bites, then tears, then burrows. The second lash finds the mark the first one opened. The third digs deeper. You don't count them. You can't. Some women faint after 6. Some survive 20. Some are never the same again. But all of them are marked. Not just with scars, but with stories. The townspeople remember. They stare longer. They whisper softer. They cross the road when you pass by. Because even after your wounds heal, you carry them in your walk, in your posture, in your silence. You can wear sleeves. You can grow your hair long. You can move to another village. But there will always be a scar beneath the fabric. And in this world, scarred women don't get second chances. They don't take you to the square this time. They take you through the village, street by street, past homes, past merchants, past the well where you used to draw water, past your old neighbour who once gave you bread, past the church steps where you were baptised. Every turn is familiar, but nothing feels like home, because this time you're not walking, you're paraded. There's a rope around your neck, not tight enough to choke, just enough to guide. Your wrists are tied in front of you. Your back is bare. Your hair is unbound and filthy. Your feet are bleeding. Your blouse is ripped at the collar. Around your shoulders hangs a sign, painted crudely in red, "For the sin of the flesh." That's all it says. It doesn't need more. The villagers fill in the blanks. Some say it was adultery. Some say prostitution. Some say you seduced a priest. But no one asks you. No one lets you speak. They just stare. Some spit. Some laugh. A few throw clumps of dirt. One boy lobs a spoiled onion that hits your arm and slides down your side like it's part of the punishment. And maybe it is. Because this isn't just punishment, it's ritual. The shaming walk. It had many names in many towns, but the message was always the same. Humiliation is purifying. A woman must be broken in public to be cleansed in God's eyes. You stumble. No one helps. The guard pulls the rope. You almost fall. The crowd claps. Your body aches in places you can't name. Your eyes sting. Your mouth is dry. But still, you keep moving. Not because you're strong, because stopping would be worse. You pass the baker and he holds up a loaf. He smirks and asks if you'd like to earn one. Laughter erupts from his doorway. You don't answer. You can't. Your voice left hours ago. And your dignity, that's long gone. At the edge of town they make you kneel. You're not told to pray, just to kneel. The mud coats your skirt. The rope is yanked from your neck. The sign is torn away. You think it's over, but it's not. A woman approaches, older, stern, dressed in black. She drapes a coarse shawl over your shoulders and whispers, "You'll stay inside now. You've brought enough shame for one life." And just like that, you are erased. No trial, no redemption, no return. You'll be locked inside a room, maybe for months, maybe years, told to work, told to be still, told to forget. But the town won't forget. They'll remember your walk, your shoulders, your silence, the shape of your pain, because that's what the punishment was for. Not to heal, not to forgive, but to mark, not with iron this time, but with memory. You will always be the woman who walked in chains, even when they're no longer there. They say it's for your protection. They say it with clean hands and calm voices, as if the decision is kind, as if the iron is mercy, as if locking your body away is somehow an act of love. You're 14, or maybe 15, old enough to bleed, old enough to be noticed, too young to understand what's about to be taken. The belt is heavy before it even touches your skin. It's made of leather and metal, polished on the outside, rusted underneath. The front is shaped like a triangle. At the centre, a hole, just large enough for urine, just small enough to keep everything else out, or in. You're told to lift your skirts. You hesitate. A slap across the face reminds you that hesitation is not allowed. You obey. They fasten the belt around your waist. It pinches. It scrapes. It locks with a key your father will carry on a string around his neck. You try to shift your hips, to sit, to breathe. But the metal moves with you, always there, always tight. They call it a chastity belt. But it's not about chastity. It's about control. Because in medieval Europe, a woman's virtue wasn't hers. It belonged to her father, her husband, her lord. If a man touched what wasn't his, it wasn't her body that was violated. It was another man's property. And so they built locks, not for men, for girls. Sometimes the belts were placed before travel, so a husband could leave for war knowing no one would touch what he left behind. Sometimes they were used on servants, or prisoners, or brides with eyes that wandered too far. They weren't just symbolic. Some belts had spikes inside. Small, curved teeth placed near the opening, not to injure, just to punish, for movement, for arousal, for resistance. The pain came later, infections, ulcers, cuts that didn't heal, girls who stopped eating just so they wouldn't have to relieve themselves. But no one listened, because the belt was doing its job. It was preserving. You try to sleep, but the edges dig into your thighs. You try to bathe, but you're told not to remove it. You try to run, but the weight throws you off balance. You start to walk like someone older, slower, cautious, bent at the waist, and soon that becomes your posture. Not just in the body, but in the soul. Because the belt doesn't just cage your flesh, it cages your thoughts. It teaches you that your body is dangerous, that your own pleasure is betrayal, that your safety comes not from strength, but from submission. And so you stop resisting, you stop touching, you stop looking, you stop asking when it will come off, because that would imply it ever will. Years later, if you marry, the key will be handed to another man. If not, it may be buried with you. Some belts were never removed. They were passed down like relics, or found centuries later in tombs and cellars, rusted shut, still shaped like the girl they once silenced. Historians argue about their use. Some say they were rare, some say they were exaggerated, some say they were myths. But the girls who wore them, they didn't care what the books would say, because the lock was real, and the message was clear. Your body is not yours. It never was. They don't just kill you. They make sure you're seen. You're placed on a cart, not a cage, not a wagon. Something simpler. A wooden platform with 4 wheels creaking through the city like a moving altar. Your hands are bound in front of you. Your feet are shackled. A priest walks beside you, whispering prayers you don't remember learning. The crowd gathers early, not for justice, for theatre. Men bring their sons, women bring shame. Children climb barrels and push each other to get a better view. Some cry, most don't. They've done this before. You're not the first woman to be dragged to death in front of a cheering crowd. You're not the last. You're not even rare. Because when a woman is executed in the medieval world, it is not punishment. It is performance. And the stage is always public. They say you poisoned your husband. They say you bewitched his sleep. They say you whispered too many secrets at night. But it doesn't matter what they say. The verdict was written the moment you made someone powerful uncomfortable. Now you are here, at the stake. The executioner steps forward. He doesn't look at you. He ties the rope tightly across your chest, around your waist, across your legs. It's not to keep you still, it's to keep you upright. Because they want the body to stay beautiful for as long as possible. You try not to cry, you try not to tremble, but the wood beneath your feet is soaked in oil. You smell it, you smell everything. The torch is lit, but they don't bring it to you right away. They circle the platform, they speak to the crowd, they give a speech about morality, about virtue, about the danger of a woman with no master. You are the sermon, and the flames are the punctuation. Then they place the torch at the base, always at the base. It must rise slowly, they say, so the lesson has time to burn before the body does. The fire licks the logs, then your dress, then your calves. It does not roar, it crackles. Your screams come quickly, but the sound of the crowd drowns them. Some people cover their ears, some don't. You feel your skin pull tight, then split, then fold in on itself. You don't die quickly. That's the point. Burning at the stake was never about justice. It was about warning. A woman burned was a woman erased, but only after she'd been displayed long enough to be remembered. And not all executions used fire. Some women were strangled slowly, so their final moments could be watched closely. Some were lowered into water, limb by limb. Some were buried alive. Some were hanged naked, so the last thing the crowd saw was not death, but humiliation. Even queens weren't spared spectacle. When Anne Boleyn lost her crown, the sword was fast, but the eyes on her were endless. When Joan of Arc stood in the flames, it was said her heart refused to burn. When witches were tied to posts, they were stripped, not because it was necessary, but because it was expected. The female body was always part of the punishment. It had to be seen, exposed, judged, destroyed. And when it was over, when there was nothing left but ash or bone or rope burns, they said justice had been done. But justice never looked like this. Justice didn't leave scorch marks in the town square. It didn't leave mothers watching their daughters scream. It didn't turn a punishment into a play. What happened to you wasn't justice. It was a theatre. And the crowd, they always stayed for the end. They lower your body into the ground, but not with honour. There is no priest at the grave, no candles, no hymns, no procession of mourning women in black. You are buried at the edge of the cemetery, where the soil is hard and the grass refuses to grow. No one speaks your name. Because even now, even after the screaming has stopped, the fire has faded, the sentence is done, your punishment continues. Your body, they say, is not holy. You are a harlot, a heretic, a wife who betrayed, a daughter who disobeyed, and the dead like you must not be allowed to rest beside the pure, so your grave is dug shallow. No stone, no marker, just dirt packed hard against your ribs. Some villagers turned women's bones into tools, some tossed their corpses into rivers, some denied them burial altogether, left them to rot where they fell. Because in this world, punishment wasn't about behaviour, it was about memory. They had to make sure you were forgotten in the right way, not as a woman, as a warning. Your children are taught not to ask. Your letters are burned. Your name is crossed out of the family records, replaced by a blank space or a smear of ink. But the space you left is louder than your life ever was. Because other girls remember. They walk past the square with quick steps. They learn to whisper instead of speak. They keep their heads down in church, their hands folded, their laughter soft. Not because they are good, because they are afraid. Afraid of ending like you, of being made an example, of becoming something people point to, but never help. The punishment worked. Not because it silenced you in life, because it echoed long after your death. They say women must be watched, controlled, corrected, and the methods may change, but the purpose never does. You were gone the moment they tied your wrists. What followed was a ritual, and even now, beneath the soil, your story isn't yours. It's theirs. They will twist it, preach it, turn it into sermons, warnings, bedtime tales meant to keep young girls obedient, and your silence, forced, final, eternal, will be proof that it worked. But maybe, just maybe, a girl will walk past your unmarked grave one day and stop, and wonder, and remember.